Michael, thank you so much for being here.
Absolutely. Thanks for having me.
You worked as an analyst, you worked in different startups, you were
hmm
CFO in a company, now you're a CFO of your own company. How did you end up being the co-founder of M11 Connection? Like why did you start this company?
Yeah,
Why was it the right time to start your own business?
I would say that there's never a right time to do anything. I think the right time is when you start. So I really have dug into this concept of progress is happiness and perfection is the enemy of progress. So like I've heard some good phrases lately that I think really tap into the to what I'm trying to do now. I think I think I think a lot of startup people had it right, at least partially, when action is just best to get going and you fill in the gaps as you go. That being said, you asked me about my journey. I went to school in McGill and I kind of just took the first job I could that was closest to investment banking. Uh, I wanted to get into that world, finance. I wanted to like work really hard for a period of time, make money, and do the next thing. And I was inspired by my brother, who was like really like a rock star in that sense, and he did private equity as well. And honestly, I ended up working at Deloitte in corporate finance after school, and that kind of just put me on a path where I started seeing things I liked. I liked learning about transactions, about different businesses, and like the variety of models that I would interact with, and modeling on Excel. And there are certain things that I enjoyed, and that carried over to the first analyst job. So I worked at a company that became Sonder, big story out of Montreal. So that gave me a taste of like this hospitality world, short-term rentals. They were starting to dabble in the concept of doing hotels. It was a bit foreign at the time. And so that was like the first plunging into chaos. A lot of all-nighters, working very hard. There was a very sudden break from Sonder. It was a great life lesson. I realized that you're always just a number at the end of the day when and it's another life lesson, unless it's your thing, there really is nothing stopping the business from disconnecting with you if that's the right call in their view, right? And even if it's not the right call, at least how I felt at the time. So, honestly, that kind of gave me a great life lesson to start, and then I had a few jobs after that. So I worked in due diligence at a pretty typically boring company, public company. They were in car parts manufacturing and distribution. Then I worked in crypto for a bit, really at the onset, and that got me interested in the alternate side of finance in the world. Um, and then I really got into basically this marketing tech business where I became CFO. I had partners. I could hire, fire, I could establish strategy, I could look at opportunities, I could work with my partner who was much more operational and see how he would actually execute the strategy and get clients. And to bring us to M11 Collection now, I essentially met my business partner through this connection, started being a part-time consultant for him, and we built up this business from a few rentals essentially to what it is today, which is basically we're a short-term rental and hotel and villa operator. We lease or manage on a commission basis various properties, from basic to luxury. We could do the entire comprehensive turnkey solution of operating a property. And so we manage a portfolio of those properties, including hotels. And yeah, we've built a great business around that. And we have some great challenges ahead, honestly, given all the regulations that we have in our city. And yeah, it's very exciting. I would say that my partner started this business. I joined him really early on, and it's been chaotic, but a lot of fun. I value the independence of having my own business for sure.
So now let's talk about the business, lease or manage properties. How
hmm
does one get people to give them the opportunity to manage their own properties? Like, because you said you started early on with your co-founders. Did he already have a bunch of properties and you just jumped in and helped him, or how does that
Yeah,
work?
I would say that that's a better description. He definitely had a basis. It was like less than 5 or 10 properties at the time. So it was much more a piecemealed, oh, let me manage a few listings for you. And honestly, I just came in with just a bit of bones around the meat, so that we can start building, just to have some structure. And no, it enabled us to scale and to get more clients. So your question of how do you get these units? I mean, um, you really have to look at it first on your market, like what does your market allow for? And yeah, back in the day, even 3 years ago. It was a much easier regulatory landscape where we are in Montreal in Quebec, Canada. So you could get you could get investors, developers, people that had access or owned real estate assets where they were, I mean, the pitch is simple. You're seeking to get a better premium on market rent versus a long-term tenant. Then let's explore short-term, medium-term rentals. Let's make the optimizations necessary to your property to operate these as a listing. So for us as a business, it was we can do this as the commission on a commission, or hey, we could lease your property, no risk to you. Let us deal with the upside downside swings and the seasonality, and yeah, and then we keep the proceeds. That at the inception is the basic business model of being a rental operator. And now, the regulatory environment is much more difficult. So yeah, we can't just scale in Montreal, let's say, and suddenly make a big sales push and get more units. I wish it was that simple. Um, it's not. So, it's evolved over time, and our model has evolved with it. We do a little more now.
You mentioned regulatory hurdles a bunch of times, so it's obviously something
Yeah, yeah,
that you
for
have to deal
sure.
with. So can you just elaborate a bit because I still
Yeah,
don't get like the full picture. What do you mean? Give me a concrete example.
sure. So stop me if I'm getting too granular, but essentially in Montreal, the market that we're in, our main kind of flagship market where, even right now it's 90% of our portfolio. Um, you basically you can have a rental property and with three permits. You could have a hotel, you could have a regular short-term rental permit, or you could have a primary residence permit. So these are the type of mechanisms that you can permit a property so that you can legally host it on Airbnb, on Booking.com, on they call it OTAs, online travel agents. So the problem is that there's always rules on the books. Let's put hotels aside. So you have these two permits. There was always rules on the books for short-term rentals where you could only really do short-term rentals on a residentially zoned property in these three streets. For people that are from Montreal, they're St. Catherine Street, Saint Denis, roughly, and Saint Laurent. Tourist streets, great. Those rules have been on the books, on the bylaws since 2016 easily, but they were never enforced. I would tell you statistically 80 to 85% of listings in
Mm.
Montreal were illegal in a way. They weren't abiding by these bylaws of being in these streets, but they were never enforced. So you could post your property, even if it was commercially zoned and it was on Stanley, you could put your property on Airbnb, it wouldn't matter. So fast forward to 2018, 2019, that starts to ramp up. It becomes tougher to get these permits, but again, no enforcement. And then I believe it was 2022. I forget exactly when it was. There was a big fire in the old port of Montreal. A lot of political pressure. So the municipal government here decides we're going to enforce this. So now, when you're pushing a listing on Airbnb, you had to have the actual PDF, the information of the permit. It was validated by the governmental agent, etc. And there were fines and penalties in place to enforce that and to have the incentive aligned. That being said, the other permit I mentioned, primary residence, was always there. So fast forward to 3 months ago, the government decided to destroy that primary residence permit. So what does that mean? It means that not only are you only allowed to get short-term rental permits
Mm.
for residentially zoned properties on the three streets, plus if you own a place or you rent a place and you want to get a permit for your place to to do short-term rentals with, which you could do prior to 3 months ago. Now, basically, you can only do it from June to September with the primary residence permit. So,
Wait, wait,
what does
just
that?
just let
Yeah,
me
go ahead.
understand.
Yeah, go ahead.
You're saying that even though you're in the right location, you can only do short term within this period of time?
No, so let's say you're on Saint Laurent, Saint Denis, Saint Catherine, and you
Yeah,
follow all the other little rules.
yeah.
Um, your 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 place is residentially zoned. You can get a license, no problem. That's the key one. But then let's say you have a home in NDG. You know, you have a townhouse, you have whatever. Prior to 3, 4 months ago, you could get a primary residence permit.
Hmm.
It would get approved, and then you can operate or get an operator like us to run your short-term rental, right? However long you want it in the year, usually, even though there was actually a 200-day rule, something like that, but it wasn't getting enforced. So now the new rule is no, primary residence permit specifically, it can only be allowed to be used June to September. So not related to the three streets one, but more if it's
Mm,
your primary residence. So um the issue for us, of course, is like we have X number of units in our portfolio that are online because of this primary residence permit. So, when I keep repeating regulatory challenges, it's because, we're in a market where it's very challenging to just get growth, and you have to get very, again, lucky. You have to either know a developer who has assets on these three streets that are unaffected, or you have developers that have been anticipating creating a hotel, launching one, developing one, just maybe owning a hotel and they're trying to find a new operator. So to summarize all this, basically, it's the avenues that we have for growth in Montreal in the short-term rental space are very limited. So our focus now to give you a more outward outlook is more hotels. So our goal now, our pitches, our relationship building, our business development is anchored on, yes, operating short-term rentals and villas not in Montreal. That's number one. And number two would be hotels. So we're looking for 60 doors or less, 70 doors or less. We're looking for properties that ideally have an existing operation base. And if they don't, no problem. Again, we're turnkey in that way. And we come in and we create a launch plan, we create an optimizations list, we create a renovations list that we recommend, all the different changes that we could make to enhance the performance of the property and all the metrics that come with it. And an ideal basis, we do this on a commission basis, but we're very open and flexible enough where if the property owner, the asset manager, whoever it is, just wants to have a tenant, then we can potentially draft a master lease with them
mhm.
and operate the hotel. So that's kind of where we're going now.
Okay, and you've been at this for almost 3 years now. So do you,
I would say even more actually.
yeah,
I was doing about a year and a half part-time
consulting?
while I was doing Callbox, my other marketing business. So yeah.
Yeah. So during this time, do you see clients stay or are they transitional clients? Like they come 6 months and then they just move on to something else, or once they're with you, that's it. They're stuck with you. Like, what's the pattern here?
Customers are sticky. We do a good job. We capture as much of the upside as possible for owners during the bright seasons. That being said, the reason why a customer would stop, a customer for me is someone who has units for us to manage, basically, not guests that stay with us, right?
Yeah.
I would say the only reason why customers churn is because of regulatory issues. We know the permit won't work anymore. You know that you're entering a gray zone. They're not comfortable. So, and we help them close out. We don't necessarily just hand off, leave them in the lurch. We had a customer with 15 units in what we call like the carry area. Not really downtown, not really pure suburban, but kind of in between. Um, Listen, it's not like a crazy tourist area, but the numbers were really great. But we knew that there was a regulatory enforcement coming. He wasn't going to be able to justify the permit anymore as it was expiring as well. So we knew that it was limited time. He knew it as well. So yeah, we just worked to make it a year and a half of like really good results. We closed it off. We acted as a leasing agent at the end to help them find tenants. So we really like to close the loop and make sure the experience is great for the client.
You have someone with a legal background in your team, or do you outsource this?
I wish. That would be something that I think in our kind of 2.0 vision of our growth,
Yeah.
three roles that would be dramatically helpful. A head of hotels for a group. So someone who can come with real hotel experience and be the one drafting these launch plans, creating these checklists to make sure we didn't miss anything, and developing our tech stack for the hotel. Someone who could basically report back to us with the reports, deal with crises on the ground with the team, be the main liaison with general managers, things like that. So, head of hotels, CMO or CSO, like a sales officer, marketing officer, because as we get villas and properties around the world and different owners and different models, sometimes you don't have enough flexibility with one owner. For example, one owner might not have the ability to allow us to promote the listing on Airbnb or Booking.com. Sometimes they're already fully distributed. They just want us to drive direct bookings. So reason why I'm bringing
Mhm.
up all this is because if we had a CMO or CSO, we would have an in-house person to be like really good at running ads,
Yeah.
improving the rankings of our listings, things like that that would enable us to take the next step for direct booking generation. And then yes, kind of a head counsel. But I think once we enter getting more hotels, getting more agreements that need to be more rock solid, exploring development projects, which is something we'd like to do as well. As you can see, we're a bit all over the place. We would like to do development in the future. So I think as we enter that 2.0 phase, I think someone legal would be great. But listen, we have really great partners, really great clients. They're developers, they're people in real estate. We have really great we have a really great network for legal professional services. So currently it hasn't been a burning need, but it will be in the future.
You have properties around the world now. So do
Yeah,
you, how much, what's the percentage of the business that is outside of Montreal? Is it like a huge chunk? Is it a growing area of your
it's
business?
not it's not a huge chunk. I'll tell you, there's so much variability, right? So because of all these regulation issues, I'll give you an example. We were in Ottawa with like 5 units, was working very well, had to stop. We
Mhm.
were in Tulum, we stopped and then we restarted. So we have villas in Tulum that we operate. And part of the changes that we have been working through is to expand the different business models we could use. So like we lease and operate, we could manage and operate. We could do the same thing for hotels. Then we could also do what we call today external booking. So like internally, what we call external booking, instead of really managing the operation and being, really involved with the cleaners and the supplies and the procurement, dealing with all the issues around reservations and guests, we have this new model where basically we meet a partner, they have all these properties, they either use an agent, they do it themselves, but we want to put their inventory on our site. We want to send them bookings, we want to get a commission on bookings. So basically we have this new model now where we're getting listings, the operator or the manager or the owner has their own person or their own team that can deal with the actual operation, supplies, dealing with guests, welcoming guests, checking them in, et cetera, et cetera. So for us, it's purely just a lead gen model with a handoff, right? And then obviously managing the listing and the words but again, if these properties are already online everywhere, then they would just be on our site. And then, we're banking on our site, we're banking on more creative distribution techniques, working with travel agents, influencers. So marketing dollars that we absorb to potentially get lumpier payouts of bigger commissions. So I'll give you an example. We have 12 villas in Mykonos, extremely high end, beautiful, beautiful properties. Yeah, and we're setting them up now. And it's great for us diversification wise. It's great for us business model diversification wise. We're not leasing, we're not managing, we're just generating bookings for them. and then trying to figure out our secret sauce of ads, SEO, ranking, and influencer marketing. We're doing that as well in Tulum. Like we have properties that we manage, but then now we're adding new villas in the next few weeks under this external booking model. We'll be doing the same thing in Spain. Honestly, and we really hope this takes off as well, but we have had some really preliminary conversations in Dubai as well. So this other model just enables us to have like a more intermediate, like a more like kind of like less hands-on approach to getting properties, but it enables us to grow the portfolio. And honestly, in this world, the snowball effect is real. If I show someone that we have 300 properties versus 100, it's a game changer in terms of where the conversation goes next.
I mean, there's so many follow-ups, so just gotta pick one. So,
All of them.
uh, if I look at Airbnb, for example,
Yeah.
how how is it different? Like, what's the value proposition that comes from dealing with someone like you or your company than
Mhm.
posting something myself on Airbnb? I know you talked about the hotels and managing everything from A to Z, but if I just have a single unit, why wouldn't I just put it on Airbnb?
If you have a single unit, you have a good case. You could do it yourself. That being said, you'll have to find cleaners. You'll have to talk to guests. The guest will call you. Like you're basically accepting that you're gonna take all the annoying aspects of the operation with it, right? That being said, you have one property. It's probably best that you do it yourself. We're not gonna lie to clients either. Then again, we have clients that give us one apartment, one villa. Depends on the size and the complexity. I would say that the value proposition is just comprehensive service, convenience, and performance. I mean, we we do well for our clients. When there's events, our pricing is very reactive. When occupancy is known to be low based on aggregated market research, we know to drop pricing, work on discounts, do certain actions on OTAs. So that's Booking.com, that's Airbnb. These are all these sites we're talking about. Um, and we have our cleaning teams, we have our customer service team. We didn't discuss this, but we have a 24/7 branded customer service team that is driven to provide a good customer experience, authorized to provide refunds, all these types of things. And they're trained to try and get as many upsells as possible. Late checkouts, early check-ins, crib, pet fee, selling tours in Montreal or others.
Mhm.
So I would say that we're a
Yeah.
package deal. So I like to tell clients like you're obviously more than welcome to try it yourself. I just think you'll enjoy just getting a check every month and having us deal with all of it.
As someone who has experimented with this for fun,
Yeah.
um, it is a hassle.
It's a
Like
hustle. Yeah.
it's very difficult to keep up with the trends, seasonality, all this stuff,
Yeah.
and especially if you just have it on the side, you don't want to spend too much time and energy on this, especially if you have multiple properties. So I do see
hmm
the value. And if you do everything and just take a commission at the end, is that the model? You like take care of everything and just take a commission?
when we're not leasing the property from someone, yeah, that's pretty much what we do. It's simple in a way that like
Yeah.
we get your property, we sign our agreement. Um,
Mm,
we're again, we can do the whole thing. So you tell me, hey, I have this property. It's a four-bedroom. It's really great. There's no furniture. Okay, we could furnish it at a very, very reasonable flat fee. We fully furnish it, prepare it. We do the photography. We do the listing
Oh
setup.
wow. Okay.
Yeah,
You're
we
even
do
gonna
the whole
take care of
thing.
the furniture and taking pictures.
Yeah.
Okay, okay.
Or if
All right.
you say, I have furniture in there now, but I want it out. I want to put stuff just for the rental, and I want you guys to deal with it. Okay, we'll get the storage unit. We'll handle everything. So we have a really good like unit setup service. And honestly, that carries over to like our entrepreneurial side. Like this means that like, look, we have clients that not even for the rental properties with us, they have long-term units and they say, can you help me do these move out cleans? I have 24 units. I need to clean the last tenant to get it ready for the next one. Yeah, we did one time in 3 days. We did 30 units deep cleaning, moving out stuff, getting U-Hauls, moving like old tenant stuff that was left over into storage.
Uh,
So it carries over into these little side things, but yeah, no, we find that usually people are interested by the pitch of like convenience for sure.
Fit. So since we're running out of time, I'm gonna end with this question. What has been the biggest lesson learned from running your own business for the past couple of years?
Yeah, should have expected this question.
Yeah,
Um,
to simplify it, like what's something you weren't prepared for in your past companies
yeah,
that you had
yeah,
to deal with?
yeah. I mean, the biggest lesson learned is be proactive, not reactive. That's, I think, one of the biggest issues, and my partner is well aware that I have these gripes. I'm someone very emotional, reactive person. So yes, sometimes I will get bogged down by something and I get really affected by it. You asked me to circle back to something you said at the beginning of this of the interview. You said, "How did you know he was the right partner?" Well, something that I do admire in him is he's able to take punches and just keep going. And as well, he's a man of action. And I'm much more risk averse than he is as well. So all this being said, I think there's a good complementing. Now, the question of what did we learn? I think being proactive is very important. You see something happening in your market, you see that there's a 80/20. Let's stick to Pareto principles. There's an 80% chance that something will happen if you don't react now, or you'll be impacted by something down the line. You're better off planning for it now. Even if it doesn't happen, just plan for the worst. I think that in general is a great lesson for literally anything, business, sports, and anything, even like relationships. You see something that there's a seed of doubt planted, there's an issue that you're seeing starting to blossom. I'd rather attack it, confront it right now, have it out in the open and speak about it rather than deal with it when it's potentially festered and grown. And so for us, it's regulatory environment, anticipating things that would happen in the future, already building a business development strategy or something to focus on this next avenue of growth, potentially pivoting, doing something else. So I think that's the biggest thing for any entrepreneur is like know yourself, and like the Sun Tzu thing, know your enemy, but your enemy is yourself. If you don't know yourself, you don't know how to do the right steps to protect yourself in the future. So proactive instead of being reactive. And I think, it'll be a less chaotic journey for sure.
Mm. Great advice. Michael, thank you so much for doing this. This was a super interesting conversation.
Thanks, Anton. I really appreciate it.